This is the second part of my presentation, CIBC, Corruption, Collusion, Fraud, and Theft. This is actually a type of receipt that CIBC or other third parties should give to the CRA if the process is a real process. I mean, if it comes from the real CRA, and the minister would send my husband a copy. Notice in this receipt it requires the person's name, full name to be in print, his signature, the date, the amount forwarded and the amount still owed, the telephone number of the person and the position of the person at the bank. Edward Wong was afraid that his name would be known. This is a fraud and he doesn't want to be responsible. So he put a restriction on my husband's account saying stop redemption. Not only for my husband's account but also on my account. I cannot get my investments. I cannot get my money. This is evil. After cleaning my husband's bank account, Yannick Meyer sent a copy of a bank draft. He uses a scam address, P.O. Box 4644, which is not the CIBC address. Apparently, the client care, which is a big name for the customer service, all use the same address, a scam address, because this is a fraud and out of the banking procedure. But they use the bank to make it like legit. He also uses his first initial only, J. Why he uses a first initial only? Because he does not want to be identified as the person who stole our money and other people's money and gave it to the CRA scammers, name Rivera, which is not a real name. The CRA scammers have actually started their activities of defrauding the citizens since 2007, the year when Prime Minister Stephen Harper created the CRA Corporation, a fake CRA, which works like a customer service to the real CRA. Like at banking industry, where they have customer service or client care, so is the fake CRA to the real CRA. But this fake CRA wants to take over the real CRA. The customer service of the fake CRA can also be the customer service for the CIBC. That is why they work together. The receipt sent by Rivera to Edward Wong on the previous slide is for real, but nobody wants to be identified because this is a backdoor and this is a fraud. So CIBC makes its own receipt using a bank draft and a short letter. Yannick authorizes and signs this bank draft himself. The bank draft or the copy of the bank draft is not formal. It is only a camouflage because the money is transferred electronically. He blocks us from the account so that we cannot see where the money is transferred to. The money is actually transferred to a bank account at the Scotia Bank in South America. Half of it, and the other half is posted to GOW number 465155, which is an account they use to pay ISIS. The money was cleaned from my husband's bank account on May 9, 2016, but my husband never receives anything from the CRA or the court even until today. This is 2017. August 2017, my husband never received anything from the CRA or the court. A court order will be coming from the court. They do this to hundreds of thousands of people since 2007. The sad thing is, even the so-called tax lawyers do not really know the tax law and its procedure. So these people or scammers have managed to rob hundreds of thousands of small guys like my husband. Then they go to the mainstream. They fraud the elderly widows and the people of lower classes in the open space because they have paid the court, the lawyers, and the frontline police. So no one wants to do anything about this. The tax lawyers take the CRA to court, but they actually deal with the CRA scammers. And these scammers work together with the bank people, the customer service people, but they could also be the same people. At the court, they pay people, the front line, the administrative or the administration people, to say that, oh, to swam, the court is to swam. Just do it outside the court settlement. You see the arrangement of customer service? They serve many different companies at the same time. The CRA contracts or outsources its customer service to these customer service people, the fake CRA. But actually, the fake CRA bribes the real CRA so they could do the work like customer service as customer service. The people who work as customer service for the CRA could also be the same people work as the customer service at the CIBC. That is why they demand that you must pay these scammers, including them, and they control our money. This is very evil. This is the copy of the bank draft sent by Yannick Myers. He never uses his real name, but only an initial J, because this is a fraud. He does not want to be known. He signs it himself. He gives a short letter, which seems like a template, with no address, saying third party requirement CRA. But at the bottom, he put his initial J, pair manager. It is supposed to be a legal process, but because this is a fraud, it becomes like a child's play. It is all done from the back door. It shows how the bank is irresponsible to crime done by their customer service. My husband found out the money was frozen on May 6, 2016. 3 days later, the money disappeared. But we have no paper or any kind. Who says this is legit? Only a fool says so. The money was taken without my husband's authorization. Karen Burns, the Smiths Falls branch manager, must have approved it orally, and hence Yannick took the money. They are all together in this fraud. 3 weeks later, on May 21st, 2016, we received a scam garnishment letter. There are 4 of them with return envelopes. These return envelopes have 4 different addresses, which are no longer valid as of October 1st, 2012. No one should send any communications or payment to these addresses. Why 4 different addresses if not paying taxes? You pay taxes to one person, the receiver general, and he has 1 address. 2 are addressed to the CIBC, one at 199 Bay Street and the other one to CIBC Securities Inc. at 22 Front Street West, to Edward Wong. 2 are addressed to 2 contractors. None received this requirement to pay. Rivera wants me to send them to the banks and the 2 contractors. The day we received these letters, we took them to the CIBC branch and asked to meet with the manager, Karen Burns. To our surprise, she did not even want to look at it. She did not want to talk about it. I asked if she has any paper from the CRA. She said, "I'm sure someone has the paper." When I said this letter is a scam, she said, "Prove it." How fool can a person be? But the trustees, the lawyers, and the police are also fools. They never know or never see the real paper. So a scam letter they believe as real. No wonder that for so many years, 10 years, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people have been victimized. This is the answer we receive from a bank manager? It sounds irresponsible, non dependable, skeptic, and just simply ignorant. I never meet a manager who is like this. Or it could also be that she knows this practice. Robbing people has become their common practice, so she just closes her eyes. You know, when a leader closes his eyes, that means he is corrupt. She did not want to look at it, she did not want to talk about it. How could a manager bank allow a long year customer to be robbed and then ignore him? She ignores us. If she was willing to help, she will also find out that this is a fraud. But boy, she was ever mean. The goal of the branch just told me that they cannot take the money without my husband's authorization and approval. This branch manager must have given the green light to Yannick to authorize it, and of course, he signs the bank draft himself. They do things in oral manner rather than in writing. This explains her behavior when we met with her. She was just totally ignorant. This is the copy of the requirement to pay sent by not Rivera, or could be Rivera, but could be anyone from Sudbury, because all these letters come from Sudbury to my husband. But Sudbury is an appeal office, not a collection office. This is not a requirement to pay. This is actually a contract form between the CRA and its contractors. By the way, I mentioned before, the CRA contracts its job to myriads of contractors. So this is actually a contract form. Rivera washed out the content of this contract form and replaced it with this content. I signed this kind of form before. This is actually a scam paper. A garnishment can only be issued by the court, while a requirement to pay is issued and must be signed by the minister. Both must be stamped with departmental or court stamp and must carry official record. They also must be printed on certain paper. It's a court order. For years, since 2007, they have been doing this to small guys that they have no feelings anymore. They have no remorse at all. Defrauding the bank customers has become their common practice. They work together. They give the money to the two accounts mentioned before, shown in the bank draft, and one is transferred to a Scotia Bank branch out of the country in South America, while the CIBC branch in Smith Falls does not have any paper? How could that be? We deal with the branch in Smith Falls. No one will ask the person in Toronto to take the money without going to the branch where we bank. This is a fraud. This is a theft. Well, the paper itself is a fraud. The paper is issued 3 weeks after the money was taken. Isn't that something? The branch is supposed to be responsible, but they don't care. Well, Karen Burns didn't even want to look at it. Our meeting with Karen Burns resulted in nothing. She did not want to help us at all. She has no paper. Even until today, she has no paper. The branch does not have any paper. Karen Burns said that she only talked to Daniel Snyder, and she believed Daniel Snyder, the scammer, the CRA scammer, the political staff, that my husband is being garnished and the holding is of our account stays. This bank manager is actually very mean and totally ignorant. But a fool. She is fool. She makes the other tellers to ignore us as well. One said to me, I don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about their own people stealing our money because their manager gave the green light that it is okay to take our money without our knowledge. A week after receiving this scam requirement to pay, we received three more scam requirement to pay. All are addressed to three different credit card companies. They are without return envelopes, but no one whose name is written in this scam requirement to pay ever receives this letter. It is only a formality because Rivera has received the money from Yannick and he wants more. He asked me to send the letters to all the intended recipients, including the CIBC and the two contractors. The three credit card companies as well. Yes, Rivera wants me to send the letters to all the intended recipients. Imagine if everyone gives the same amount Rivera asked, $38,000. He is actually robbing these banks and the credit card banks, including the two contractors, using my husband's name. And my husband bears the responsibility to pay them back. It is quite a scheme. That is quite a lot of money to be made out of one little victim. I sent the letter to the intended banks with a note that this requirement to pay is a fraud and do not act upon this letter. I want the bank people to know that they may have received the same from other victims but do not know that this is a fraud. None of them ever gives the money to Rivera. None of the credit card banks has returned envelope. Only the CIBC and the two contractors. It is a contract form. Rivera turns it into a scam requirement to pay, and all lawyers and police trustees believe because they never see the real one. How they have all been fooled. But out of their self-pride, their ego, they rather justify and deny it instead of admitting it. I received this scam letter from Kevin, a customer service agent who asked this letter from Edward Wong and also the voucher. This scam letter has received by Edward Wong on May 2nd, 2016. The address in this letter and that in the one he sent to my husband are different, while they're supposed to be copied to each other. A copy means duplicate, and they have to be identical. They are not so because it is targeted to certain individual. This is not the CRA. The CRA will address the letter to the CEO, Chief Executive Officer, not Edward Wong. This scam letter is also signed by Rivera himself, and he claims he is team leader of revenue collection. When it is addressed to customer service, that means back door. You know that the real CRA has jurisdiction? No one goes across this boundary, although they work using computer system. A collection section for our jurisdiction is Kingston, not Toronto. Rivera is from Toronto, whose office no communication or payment to be sent to this address as of October 1st, 2012. In fact, Rivera's office is not a collection section, but a business analysis unit. All these scam requirement to pay are sent from the Sudbury office. Sudbury office is an appeal section. It is not a collection section. Try talking to the CIBC employees, customer service. All are very defensive. They do not want to admit their mistakes because this has become a common practice, robbing people. I find it funny. They always say, you don't like it, you can contact the ombudsman. They use the word escalate. The word escalate sounds very important and make the ombudsman sounds like a very prestigious or a God-given person. All of the customer service do is accusing us. accusing my husband, accusing all the victims. They have had the record in their computer system, which they call it a document, that they are so defensive and deny everything while keep accusing. Anne Marie at the branch, Smithwell's branch, even asked me, "Do you pay taxes?" Since when the CIBC becomes a tax man? It is a bank. So it is crossover becoming a tax man to the CRA scammer? Well, they are all together. It is unbelievable. All keep accusing my husband does not pay taxes, ignoring all the illegal papers and things they do. See, like the politicians, accuse, 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 and don't look at your mistake. All are done through the back door. No one gives his real name and position because this is a fraud, and they do not want to give their name because they are afraid we can give their names to the police. They are all irresponsible and are covering themselves. They like to argue and argue and argue like the politicians do. Collusively, they take control of our money and all our investment. They actually don't want us to withdraw our money. They are using Rivera's voucher to Edward Wong to hold our money, even though it is my money, not my husband's money. A girl at the bank told me that they cannot touch if it is a joint account. But they lie. Our investments are in either my name or my husband's name, and we are the beneficiary of each other. They take control and do not want us to withdraw our money based on Rivera's voucher, the CRA scammer. Yes, they want to take control all our money because we are small people. They work together with the CRA scammer. I remember they just hired a person who freshly out of school and has mutual fund certificate. He wanted to take all our money, including our son's money, and play with them by force. He likes to play with big money, promised us big money, but we didn't buy it. We should have pulled our money out from the CIBC then, but we give them the benefit of the doubt. Yet, this is how they treat us. Very, very bad. I wrote to the ombudsman, but he never read my mail. He never read my letter. Rather, someone named Philip Simao replied. He claimed he is account manager of the client care. He uses the same address Yannick uses, a scam address, P.O. Box 4644. All he said, the requirement to pay is legit. They all work together like a mafia ring. Each time I call him, all I got is his voicemail. I left message, several messages. He never replied. Until today, August 2017, he never replied. I went to the bank and asked to withdraw my mutual fund. The manager grabbed my paper quickly, made a copy, and said rudely, "I have to check it first. You have escalated it to the ombudsman. If it is tied to Jim, you cannot have it because of the garnishment." They don't want to give our money. Oh God, she kept saying garnishment. But this is not a garnishment. How stupid or how fool a person can be. A garnishment comes from the court. This is a contract form. She doesn't have the paper. She doesn't know it. And Rivera just make it looks like a garnishment, which he signs himself. I do not like calling people stupid, but boy, they do act so stupid. They do so because they are denying the fact that we have found out all these years they have been working together with the scammers to fraud people. My husband said she was retaliating to what you have found out. It is funny. The tax lawyers, the other lawyers, the trustees, and the police do not even know that only the court can issue garnishment and a requirement to pay must be issued and signed by the minister? This scam requirement to pay is signed by Rivera himself. He claims he is team leader of revenue collection, but he's in Toronto, not in our jurisdiction. The address where Rivera claims his office is, it is a business analysis unit, not a collection unit. Karen Burns did not want to process my fund. She ignored me. Oh boy, she is so rude. But she reminds me of the time when my parents-in-laws died, both of them, and they were buried in May 2015, 2.5 years ago. My husband asked their money to pay for their funeral. CIBC did not want to give the money. They gave him so many excuses. 6 months have passed. They still did not want to give the money. He got a lawyer to force them to give the money. Yes, it has been 6 months and he has to pay for the cost of funeral. They want him to get the money from somewhere else. What kind of a bank is this? People died and you have to close their account. They did not want to give the money. My husband felt like yelling at them at the branch. Just look at that. I tried to get my funds through the customer service. They said there is a restriction. One named Sid Saidi, he was very, very angry when I said I want to cash my mutual funds. This bank becomes fishy and fishier every day to us. I went through our record of GICs and found out that 2 are missing. When I found out about Rivera is not from the CRA but the fake CRA, I wrote a letter to the Ombudsman, my 4th letter. I made a copy and took it to the CIBC branch and gave it to Anne Marie. I said to her, I want you to read this and share it with your manager. Before this, I have tried to talk to Karen Burns 3 times. All I did was leave message on her voicemail. She never returned my call. She wanted me to prove that this is a fraud, so I gave the proof. I put it in my letter to the Ombudsman and now I made a copy to her and Anne Marie. This is the time when Anne Marie asked me, do you pay taxes? Are you a bank or a tax collector? Isn't that something? I was going to laugh. What a stupid question is this? Since when the CIBC becomes a taxman? I also find it funny. They are forcing us to pay Rivera, which is not a real name, but they do not want us to withdraw our money. How could that be? You have to give the money so we have money to pay the scammer. But of course, I want the scammers to be known by the public that CIBC forced us to pay the scammers, and this is the scammer. After reading my letter to the Ombudsman, Karen Burns called me and left me a message. She said on the phone, don't contact Anne Marie, but talk to me only. So I did. I called her. She never wanted to talk to me. I talked to her on the phone once. Like this time, all she said, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to hang up the phone now. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to hang up the phone now. Over and over she said, I'm not talking to you. I'm going to hang up. So I hung up the phone first before she did. What kind of bank manager is this? Apparently, she has been talking to Daniel Snyder and the other customer service people that they put in the record, do not talk to Caroline, but talk only to Jim. Why? Because Caroline is the one who find out that this is all fraud. When I call the customer service, they do not want to talk to me either, but only want to talk to Jim. You see, They work together in this fraudulent practice. Since 2014, early 2014, I have been receiving letters from the so-called National Student Loan Service Center requesting payment. But I know that since 2013, the government makes the decision that student loan borrowers can only pay their loan to the CRA. They must sign an agreement with the CRA before the CRA can take their income tax refunds, or directly to the Ministry of Human Resources, Social Skills and Development. So I know that this letter is a scam. In fact, I know that since 2009, I do not have any more loan because I applied for debt reduction while being in school. My student loans is very, very small compared to what other students receive. Knowing this is a scam, I ignore it. They also call non-stop, but this is a scam. On September 30, 2016, they took $530 from my bank account without me knowing it. No paper or anything, but it says pre-authorized debit NSLC. But who authorized it? I called the bank, again the customer service, and asked who authorized this payment. The branch does not really know about it. A woman said to me rudely, she was rude, if you owe the government money, they can take the money without your knowledge. Huh? Since when? The government never does such a thing. The law requires written agreement from the persons involved. The government never takes money from people directly from their bank account without their knowledge and authorization. That is a theft. I threatened her. She hung up. So for the rest of the year, they stopped taking the money. I purposely left some money there to see if they would really stop stealing. But they did it again on February 2017. Exactly on February 28, 2017, they took another $530. When I called, no one wanted to tell me anything. They passed me from one person to another and to another and to another and then just hung up. So I decided to close the account while investigating. I will explain it later that apparently CIBC has been doing identity theft and fraud the year it took over student loan. In the month of January 2017, Yannick Meyer stole over $4,000 from our son's account. It says IBB collection. I told my son, he didn't know, so I told him to go and check with the CIBC. He went to the CIBC at North York branch and he met with Yannick. Yannick told my son that he took the money because I owe him money. I owe money to him. He just used the CIBC to take the money. Huh? Yannick wanted me to call him while my son was talking to him. I called my son. He wanted to talk to me, but I lied to him that I'm a housekeeper. I wanted him to show my son his computer screen, which he did. I have been investigating the CIBC since RIFERA and the National Student Loan Service Center since the student loan data disappeared. My son received 13 different National Student Loan Service Center, all different addresses, different telephone numbers, and each one wants different thing and each one talks differently. Different amount he should pay. One was very high. The person wants him to pay about $1,200 per month, while his student loan is small. The money goes to different banks. He was so confused and upset. I overheard he scream over the telephone to these people. They threatened him and forced him to pay. The problem is everything is different. So many people. I decided to take a look at every letter. They all scam, but they work with people inside the National Student Loan Service Center. He received an official letter from the CRA with an agreement to allow the CRA to take his income tax refunds. He also received a letter from the Minister of Human Resources Skills and Social Skills and Development that his privacy information is secure and that if he wants to pay the loan, he pays either the ministry or the CRA. What kind of assurance it is? He received 13 National Student Loan Service Centers and all want different money sent to different addresses to different bank. You can only deal with one person, not so many people. I never received any letters from the minister because my application of debt reduction went through in between 2008 and 2009. Yannick is one of the scammers who work together to get money from the students from the government has decided to write off their debts. After 8 years, the government wiped out the person's debt. The CIBC uses this opportunity or using the student loan data to steal money from the students. They just take the money saying IBB collection without people knowing it. It is a theft. IBB collection is an inter-branch transaction. They move my son's money to one branch and to another branch. There are 6 transactions in January 2017 and all are 2 different branches. This is a theft. I told a Toronto police woman and she called Yannick. It spooked him. The next thing he disappeared. His telephone number disappeared as well. But the CIBC keeps trying to steal money from me by sending scam email continuously using the name of one of its executives, Anuj Vora, one who is responsible for fraud. Or he is the one who sent this scam email. Isn't that funny? A man responsible for fraud is now sending scam email to people. I will show this scam email later. By April 2017, a year later, I managed to talk to a customer service named Kevin. I told him that I want to cash my mutual funds. He said there's a restriction. We got to talk, and I asked if they receive a voucher from Rivera. It is through Kevin that I was sent the requirement to pay and the voucher from Rivera. He was going to release the money, but all of a sudden he called me and told me that Edward Wong put another restriction. He asked the letters and sent me the requirement to pay with a voucher. This time the requirement to pay is sent by Daniel Snyder. Daniel Snyder does not know Edward Wong, but she knows, I suppose, CIBC. She asked CIBC to take the cash from my husband's account that they have frozen since May 2016. The CIBC told my husband to put the money there, but he cannot withdraw. How stupid can you be if you put money in your account that has been frozen? CIBC cannot get the money because there's no money there. But he sent a letter similar to the letter Yannick sent and uses the same address, P.O. Box 4644, Toronto. Because there is no money there, Daniel Snyder sent a fax to Edward Wong and asked Edward Wong to give the money. Now, in the next slide, you will see the letter from CIBC. This is the letter from CIBC. Notice that CIBC washed out the content of this paper or this letter and pasted this content. This is a fraud. This letter is similar to the one sent by Yannick, but some are different. It looks like he makes his own receipt. Yes, this is a fraud. He says no payment has been remitted because they are chasing us for the cash. And there's no cash in the account that they are frozen. But he put a hold on all my husband's accounts, including my account. What a crook.